Hey lady, welcome to the Postpartum on Purpose podcast. If we haven't met, my name is Anne Marie and I'm wife to James and mom to 4 beautiful kids, ranging from 9 down to 1 with one on the way. My hope is to help other women experience postpartum as a time of grit, growth, and grace. This is episode 49. Hi lady, how are you? Between last week and this week, the podcast celebrated its very first birthday. I put out the first episode on May 29th of 2024. So happy first birthday to the podcast. I am still pregnant, quite pregnant, 39 weeks and 5 days. All systems are a go. We're ready for baby whenever he or she decides to make their appearance. Today I wanted to talk about when postpartum progesterone injections, usually progesterone is given injection-wise, but postpartum progesterone doesn't cure your postpartum anxiety or depression. And this may seem an extraordinarily niche topic because, one, progesterone is not exactly a mainstream treatment yet for postpartum anxiety and or depression, particularly postpartum depression, though the two, of course, tend to go hand in hand. And so there aren't that many women who even know that it's an option, let alone those who are not helped by it. So here's a little bit of background that I'll give. And I suppose I have to say, even though it seems silly to say, of course, this is a medical disclaimer and I am not giving medical advice. Well, of course I'm not. But I will say that anyway, just for the record. And here's what I want you to know. And then what I really want you to know after that. But the background info is, I learned many, many years ago that NAPR technology, which is the scientific arm, the reproductive health science based off of the Creighton model method of natural family planning and fertility awareness. So NAPR technology has protocols for prescribing progesterone to treat postpartum depression. And typically it involves a series of injections that are given into the muscle. So you wouldn't be able to give it to yourself. You'd have to have it given by either a friend, family member. Generally, if you can find somebody who's trained in giving injections like a nurse, that would be great because the material is very thick, like the solution that the progesterone is dissolved in is quite thick. But they do have a protocol for that. And there are two other reproductive sciences. I would say there's now FEM that has medical protocols, but I am not familiar with whether FEM does progesterone for postpartum depression as well. And then there's also the restorative reproductive medicine option of neofertility, which is just getting started in the United States with Dr. Monica Minger and Radiant Clinic is she in Michigan or Wisconsin? I can't remember, but it's Radiant Clinic, and she is now certified to teach and use neofertility, that version of restorative reproductive medicine, and she's got telehealth availability in something like 10 states. So I don't know if progesterone has a place for postpartum depression treatment in either neofertility or in FEM, but I am certain that it does within NAPR technology. And so I've known for quite a while that was the case. And when I was pregnant with my second child, I specifically sought out the care of a NAPR doctor with the hope or the expectation that if she knew me ahead of time and I needed progesterone prescription in the postpartum period, that way somebody, she'd be comfortable prescribing it to me, rather than going on the back end trying to reach out to somebody postpartum that did not have any familiarity with me or my medical history or any of that. So if you are still pregnant, I think it can be a great idea to at least have some sort of contact with a NAPR doctor, just on the chance that that could be a helpful route for you postpartum, especially if you have experienced, can't get my words out, a PMAD, that is a perinatal mood or anxiety disorder, previously. So if that's part of your history in the past, or you have a history of mental health problems, I think it could be helpful to have in your arsenal, in your toolbox or tool belt, the option of seeking progesterone support from a NAPR provider. Okay, but If you've listened to the podcast for any length of time, especially if you've listened to the first couple of episodes, I did get progesterone injections after my daughter. I think starting maybe at about 6 weeks. And generally, I believe they tend to be given much earlier on because usually postpartum depression, is it right to use the word usually? Often, postpartum depression can show up much earlier than 6 weeks, but frankly, it can show up at any time. So I think from what I know, progesterone may be prescribed for postpartum depression typically a little bit earlier on, but I was about 6 weeks when I experienced the most significant symptoms, or symptoms in a very like, oh, this is different sort of way. So I got injections. I had a lot of them. I think multiple weeks worth, and I don't believe that that's necessarily typical. And they just didn't help. I tried shot after shot, and I had heard that it could be like a light switch turned on, that the result could be just so quick and so marked an improvement, even in 24 hours, even after the first injection. And so I kept trying them, hoping that was going to at some point happen to me, and it just did not. That was not my experience. I received an email from a listener last week or the week before, and she too had tried postpartum progesterone to help with postpartum depression and anxiety. And she thought that it made her feel worse, actually. It didn't help, and maybe made her feel worse. And she asked me, do you have any knowledge on whether that can be the case? It can actually make you feel worse, not just the same, and not better. And I said, I don't know anything about that, because truly I don't. But I will tell you that in my own personal experience, I can say I felt certainly hopeless when the postpartum progesterone didn't help, because I had banked on it being you can put that in quotations and asterisks, the answer, the solution. And so when it was not, I truly felt very discouraged at that time. Like, I was just out of options. So I don't know if it could technically make you feel worse than you did before, but I can attest that when it did not help me feel better, that I really, really hurt. I was really hurting after that. Why am I telling you all of this? I'm telling you all of this because I don't know if you were experiencing postpartum anxiety and or depression and or another one of the PMADs, because there are 6. I don't know what you have already tried that you were banking on, just absolutely counting on and expecting to work, to help, to make all the difference, to turn the ship around. Insert your analogy here. I don't know what you've tried and what hasn't helped you in the way that you expected. I just want to encourage you that doesn't mean that because fill in the blank didn't help you individually, that doesn't mean you're unfixable. That doesn't mean you cannot feel better. It doesn't mean you can't feel more like yourself. Now, I don't know exactly what the answer will be for any given person, of course. I don't know if perhaps it would make sense for you to try working with a naturopathic doctor to do some type of supplement. I tried that briefly. That seemed to make things worse, actually. Speaking of things that made it worse, that it seemed that the different concoctions that I tried actually made me feel worse, so I tried them very briefly and then stopped all of them. I don't know what nutrition changes might be helpful to you. I don't know what therapy or medication might make sense in your case. I can't speak to those things, and I'm not trying to offer a comprehensive list of do X, Y, and Z and it will make all the difference. I'm simply saying whatever it is that you've tried and you were counting on, if it didn't help you, that's not the end. You don't have to give up. You can be frustrated, discouraged, disappointed, annoyed, angry. your emotion here. But that doesn't mean you can give up, and it doesn't mean you need to. It doesn't make you unfixable. It doesn't mean this is forever. There's one other point I wanted to make about progesterone in the postpartum period, and it's this. Progesterone is naturally low after you give birth to your baby. Progesterone is naturally low after you give birth to your baby. Now, we hear a lot about there's a massive hormonal drop after the baby's birth. Yes, there is. But what I was taught by a NAPRO nurse practitioner, who I worked with as a second NAPRO healthcare professional after my progesterone experience with my daughter, that doctor actually ended up moving away, the one who prescribed the progesterone. And so I started working virtually with a different one. And what she taught me was it's not a hormonal imbalance, because an imbalance would be your numbers should be X, but instead they're Y. Physiologically, after birth, your hormones will be low. They will be much lower than they were, especially at the end of pregnancy. That is an expected, normal finding. Now, do some women, are they more vulnerable to PMADs because of that massive hormonal shift? Are they more sensitive? Certainly that may be the case. But it was really helpful to me over time, not right away, mind you, but over time to recognize, oh, that shift is expected, it is normal, and so I will do what I can to work with it, but also I do not have to put all of my eggs in the basket of there is a hormonal imbalance that I'm trying to correct after birth, and that's why, if I struggle, and that's why I'm struggling. And therefore, if progesterone, in this case, doesn't help it, well, oh no. No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. I think that's probably enough today, lady. I'm assuming next week I'll be off or have a guest episode. We'll see. We'll see what comes. But I just wanted to remind you that whatever it is that you're expecting to help you feel better, that you're counting on with all your might, if that particular thing sort of lets you down or isn't the cure-all that you were expecting, there's still hope. I don't know what the next thing will be for you to look into or for you to try. Maybe it'll be really complex. Maybe it'll be like it was for me, where several people had suggested I look into counseling, which ultimately did start to turn the ship around. Maybe it will be something somebody has suggested to you before, and it just, you thought, no, that can't be it. That can't be it. Maybe it was a suggestion made by somebody who knows you really well and could see something that you couldn't see, or just somebody who is very well versed or experienced in a particular thing and recognized, oh, this might be able to help you. It's okay if you try something that before you rejected. I'll just put that out there too. I'll be praying for whatever it is you're going through. Until next time, I'll talk to you later.